Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Community Corner. Tonight we're going to be talking about some exciting topics dealing with the Aberdeen Police Department and their canine program. I'm Sergeant Will Reiber, and we're back again, our monthly setting, where each month we tackle a myriad of topics and bring them to you where we believe the information has real value and is pertinent to share within our community structure. At this time, I'd like to introduce Officer Mike Solar. Mike is the Aberdeen Police Department Canine Coordinator, and he's been with our department for 5 years. Officer Solar, how are you tonight?
Good.
I'd like to ask you a few questions. Could you explain to everyone what you do as a canine coordinator for the Aberdeen Police Department?
Yeah, thank you for asking. So one of my responsibilities as the canine coordinator for the City of Aberdeen's Police Department is it's my job to make sure that all the canines' responsibilities are taken care of, such as their required paperwork, inserted certifications. So we have to make sure that our dogs are in complete compliance of all local, state, and federal standards. So what we do is review all the training records as well as all uses of force, and anytime our canines are deployed, it's my responsibility to make sure that we follow all compliance and our dogs are following the standard that is set forth by our courts.
Well, the Aberdeen Police Department, we are truly blessed to have canines assisting our officers in a patrol function. Now, there is a distinction between our two dogs. We have two dogs, and Officer Solar, could you explain to our audience the difference between the dog that you have assigned and the dog that our other canine officer, Rolf Forsmark, has assigned?
Yeah, it'd be fantastic, and a great way to start this off would be really just talking about something that's really crucial to understanding the canines. One of which, Canine Sam, who's currently assigned to me, he's a CDS patrol dog, and what that means is that his job is to assist patrol officers in apprehending criminals, as well as locating missing children or anybody that might be missing or have run away. They're also utilized for collecting evidence. His other second responsibility is locating and detecting the odor of illegal substances such as marijuana, cocaine, PCP, any type of illegal drug that's currently on the market. Officer Rolf Forsmark actually has a patrol dog that is not CDS trained, but as explosive detection trained, and so that means he could do all the same purposes that Sam could do, except that his dog, Canine Arco, instead of detecting CDS, which is the illegal drugs, he's actually going to find explosive devices, which in the City of Aberdeen, having both of these dogs is one of our crucial entities and a really good thinking about our administration. Having the fact that we have Amtrak, Ripken Stadium, Route 40, I-95, Route 22, all right here in the City of Aberdeen, just coexisting, brings a lot of threat into what can happen to our citizens. So in order to keep them safe, our administration had a dual-purpose dog, which is Canine Arco and Rolf Forsmark, get trained instead of CDS but explosives to keep us safe. Where Canine Sam is utilized by our Special Operations Unit to locate and detect CDS. So that's what we have the dual purpose, and they work opposite shifts to make sure that the citizens get the best out of their investment.
That's excellent. And, you know, these dogs go through an extensive amount of training. Our handlers have been through very rigorous training programs. And if you could, Officer Solar, could you give a little insight to our citizens out there who they see you out in the public, your dog? Could you explain some of the trials and tribulations you went through to achieve the recognition and the certification as a certified canine handler?
Yeah, so Canine Sam and I started about 4 years ago. We had to do a 6-month academy. He was imported from France. He was only 7 months old at the time, and we had to do a 6-month academy. During this academy, we had to do over 300 hours of CDS detection, and then from there we went into tracking. We had to do over 400 tracks, which we had to locate somebody that went missing or had run away from a scene. Then we had to go into Article, which is evidence collection, so we're able to use the dog to do these things. Arco, which is our other canine, he went through a different form of training. He went through a 12-week program in Pennsylvania. His program was a little bit more established because he came from the Army.
Okay.
So his dog was actually pre-trained with the explosive detection. So what we did with him was we sent him to a modified training course, which is 12 weeks, which is half the amount of time, just to get his tracking up to par, which is the required federal standard of the tracking, and to get Officer Forsmark familiar with the ability to detect the explosives. Now from there, our dogs are actually required to maintain a 16-hour in-service a month to keep up to state and federal standards with their dogs and to make sure that they are on par for everything that we're doing.
Well, if I could stop you there, and again, I just want to reiterate that these dogs go through 16 hours a month just to maintain these certifications. So not only do they go through the extensive training period for the 6 months, but this is a month-to-month continuing education for the dogs to ensure their reliability and the accuracy when they're out in the field, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and then piggybacking off that, could you talk about, and I know the public sees our canines in the field, could you talk about the relationship, the bond that forms? Because our canines, I know as a police officer that's worked around canines the majority of my career and have witnessed the benefits, not only from detecting contraband and utilizing them from a criminal interdiction aspect, but when we're tracking violent offenders or we're assisting in a missing person report and the utilization is to help our citizens, that's got to be something special. Could you talk about the relationship that forms between you and your dog and that bond that exists?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the funny things that we always joke about in canine world is that we were the lonely officers that got a best friend. And what I mean by that is really simply this, is we after we got selected by the agency to become the canine handler for our agency, we get to meet our best friend. And what that means, when we met our dog, we didn't know each other at the time. And after the training, we built such a trust and relationship that it's just uncandid. I mean, we go everywhere together. Our agency actually allows us to take our dogs home and create them as members of the family. I know my dog, Canine Sam, he gets to hang out with my two kids and play in the backyard on the swing set with them and going up and down slides, which is great for him for agility and obstacle courses, and it's great for the kids to have that relationship. It also works really good with socialization of our dogs to allow the community to know that these dogs are not just vicious killers, they can actually be your buddy. Canine Arco, which is Raw Forsmark's dog, again, he goes home with Raw every night, and he gets to partake into his family activities and hang out with his kids as well. And he's a really probably a real popular dog here in town. He's always out there being friendly and being seen being pet by local children in the neighborhood.
And speaking of that, we have a community event tomorrow at St. Joan of Arc from 10 to 2. Law enforcement from the Aberdeen Police Department are going to be there, the fire department. I know there's going to be some canine demonstration, cornhole. There's going to be a lot of events. So you that are out there in Facebook land, if you'd like to come out tomorrow for a community event, St. Joan of Arc Church, located off of Plater Street, right here in Aberdeen, come down and you can see firsthand some of the interesting demonstrations and really the uniqueness of the relationship between a canine handler and their canine partner. At this time, and I think this will be pretty exciting, we'd like to set the stage with a scenario where Officer Solar is going to have a dog deployment.
Correct.
And the stage is such. We have an individual that's been called in, and this is purely for a stage. This is not active and going on in our community at this point. But for training purposes, we have an individual that was displaying a firearm, is located in Festival Park, and our canine officer has been called out to the scene to do a possible apprehension of this person. The person is not responding to commands by local law enforcement, and I can just turn it over to Officer Solar if you could kind of go through what you're going to be doing.
Absolutely. So the first thing that you're going to see me do is I'm going to actually take a position of what we call cover, which is a position of safety due to the fact that the suspect is possibly armed in this scenario. With that being said, one of the neat little devices about our vehicles that come up quite often is how are our cars equipped to take care of our canines while they're in the vehicle, especially on hot days like today. One of which is in my vehicle we have what they call a hot and pop system that determines the temperature in the vehicle.
Can I just stop you real quick? And I, just for the police jargon, and what he said was it's a hot and pop system?
Correct.
And could you just for the lay person to kind of explain how that mechanism works?
Yep. So hot meaning that it's a temperature gauge system that is regulating the temperature in the vehicle. So it'll either keep the air condition on high, or if it gets too hot in the vehicle, actually lower the windows and throw an exhaust fan on to pull the hot air out. The pop is actually what's going to be utilized in this scenario. So in this case where I'm taking cover and unable to actually get to the canine, I'm going to be able to use this clicker, which is right here on my shoulder, and be able to push a button which will actually unlock the door, the rear door where he is at, and deploy him to the suspect to keep me safe and get the suspect down as quickly and safely as possible to keep others in the area from being in danger longer than necessary.
And again, you'll get to witness firsthand the selflessness of our police canines and how they're utilized. And first and foremost, our job in law enforcement is to prevent the loss of life. And the canine being used in this manner is a tool to not only protect officers, it's to protect the suspect, the perpetrator, and also the citizens, most importantly, that could be affected by the incident that's unfolding. So if at this time, we're going to move forward with the scenario. Officer Solar, set up. At this point, we have Officer Solar. He's got coverage on a suspect that's failing to comply with verbal commands. He's at a position of cover at this point. He's giving verbal commands for him to show his hands.
Show me your hands or I'll send my dog. You will be bit.
And the individual is failing to obey those commands. And a weapon has just dropped to the ground. Canine's been deployed. Canine has taken the individual to the ground. He is taken to the ground. He is taken to the ground. And at this point, for the purposes of this scenario, we don't have an officer to go in and handcuff because of the nature of the suit. We can't apply handcuffs. What would happen at this point is officers would be convening from multiple points and angles, and they would quickly seize upon the person, conduct a frisk for weapons, a pat down, and immediately handcuff that individual. And from that point, they would go into a treatment mode where they're going to check for any injuries. If the person requires medical care, we would immediately summons an ambulance out to the scene and render medical aid. So that just gives you an idea. The individual, the Officer Pettit with the Aberdeen Police, a new officer, he weighs about 200 pounds. And you saw how seamlessly he was taken to the ground by Canine Sam and his partner. Officer Solar, could you explain a little bit about what unfolded there? Now, I was given kind of a play-by-play, but is it possible for you to give a little bit more insight about what you're feeling and what the dog's sensing from what you're doing?
Absolutely. So what's going on at that point is we gave verbal commands. The dog has been trained that those verbal commands watch us and see our target point, which would be ourselves. That way, in this park, wide open here, he knows not to pick up anybody but the suspect we're looking for. So he's looking to target that suspect. The canine deployment of the door, if we felt that he was going the wrong direction, we have the ability to call him right up in the proper location or proper. If this suspect in this case was not armed or gave up prior to the dog being actually biting him, we would have been to simply be able to call him back, put him right back into the vehicle, and we'd have had 100% compliance where nobody had to be hurt.
Excellent. And for the purposes of this scenario again, is this something that you guys trained for? And to the public watch, it looks like a violent action. But could you just reiterate the level of control and training and the precision that is used, the type of synergy between you guys to be able to affect that type of risk?
Great. So one of the big things that we look at is we don't teach the dog through aggression. We're actually teaching them through play. So in this case, it's natural canines to go after suspects and go after their toys. To essentially, anybody that owns a dog knows that playing tug of war or playing fetch with your dog, it's a really fun activity. In this case, exactly what it is. So if one of the things that you'll notice after he was sent onto our suspect, when he got off, he received the toy in turn. So that means he would immediately let go of our suspect, not causing any unnecessary harm to our suspect. But more importantly, he was able to get his toy, to be rewarded, and have self-enjoyment at that point.
Great. Now, at this time, what we're encouraging is if you have any questions, this is the time now to fire in. Please keep the questions limited to the scope of what this community corner is about, and that's about our canine team. And those questions don't have to be specific to just Canine Sam. They can also be include information involving our bomb detection dog, Arco. So at this time, I encourage you to please put some questions in. I'd love to hear from you guys. I think it's important that the public understands the type of dedication that we have amongst our officers, and especially our canine friends. So as we continue this evening, I think it's important to kind of talk about the sense, the olfactory senses of the canine, their ability to detect smells and how they differ from us. And I can give you an example as a person that worked in narcotics for many years. We would utilize our canine friends to scan vehicles for the detection and odor of drugs and such. And it's hard to quantify. Through our nose, we're able to make a detection. But could you just talk in more, I guess, greater specifics about just how amazing a dog's nose is and how it's able to pick out the individual layers of odor?
That's a fantastic question that it comes up all the time. one of the big things that most people don't understand is the capability of our dogs. So that is a great point you brought that up. Canine Sam and Canine Arco are actually capable of smelling and detecting an odor that's 0.225 millionths of an odor. So
wait a minute. 0.225 millionths?
Millionths of an odor. So you're talking about, just to get a real grasp idea of this, is imagine if you took an onion and placed it into one of those Ziploc Glad containers. Took the onion out on July 1st. Well, on July 30th, he's still going to smell that onion.
So the onion has been removed, placed into the baggie on July 1st, then removed, and then 30 days later,
he'll still smell it.
The residual odor is still present.
Correct.
And he's able to detect
He is able to detect that. Now, one of the funniest questions, which is probably never asked, is this. Does your dog actually find the drugs? No, he's actually finding the odor of the drug. So it is what we keep saying, this word of residual odor. So as we talk about that onion being removed, that odor is still there. And that's what our CDS dogs, drug dogs, are finding, is that residual odor, as well as the explosive detection dogs are going to find that residual odor of the explosive. So it's not necessarily always going to be a full presence of the item, but it's going to say that the item was there, which is going to lead us as police officers into the proper investigation to where it could be, where it's gone, and get us the most safety for our citizens.
And I think something else is important to bring up. When we look in terms of the world of canines and just the importance, this is an underrepresented segment of our law enforcement community. Unfortunately, with budgets and such, it's a very expensive proposition to train and equip an officer with a canine. Within Harford County, I believe every agency has a canine in some form or fashion that's either a patrol or narcotics or bomb detection canine. And the beauty of this operation is, and I'll let you elaborate a little bit more, could you talk about the networking that goes on and how you are able to serve not only the citizens of Aberdeen, but you are able to serve the citizens of Harford County as well as the state of Maryland because of the resources like bomb detection, how you're utilized throughout the state. This isn't just individually for the city of Aberdeen.
Harford County Sheriff's Office, Haverty Grace, Bel Air, as well as Aberdeen, we all have canines. And one of the most difficult things that we come across is there's 24 hours in a day and there's just not enough dogs trained. So one of the things that we do is we call mutual aid. And what will happen is if, for example, Harford County canines are unavailable, they can request from our supervisors permission to use our dog, and we will respond to the most necessary location they're requesting us. And if we're unavailable due to our day off or just that our shift is over, we request Haverty Grace, Bel Air, or Harford County to essentially help us back in need as well. One of the nice things is that being that we're all sharing the responsibilities of canine, some agencies are able to get other dogs, such as Harford County being able to bloodhound for tracks that are a lot older than something that just occurred. So we can ask them for that service. And as well with explosive threats, if we have school threats, we have other agencies with bomb detection dogs to assist with ours because they might have to check a really large area that might wear the dog out before it's capable of doing that. So we really do help each other out with the mutual aid in this county. It's a fantastic relationship that we're able to have between the agencies.
And see, that's a bit of information. That's really the relevance of what we're doing here is kind of explaining how our canine functions and the important role that it plays not only in the city of Aberdeen, but in Harford County in general. Getting back to Sam, could you talk about, was there ever any one, I can tell you having worked in law enforcement for 18 years, going to a building where potentially someone may have just burglarized, there's definitely a sense of a reassurance when you have a canine part that you're able to introduce in. And if you could, and you've done far more of these building scans and searches than I have, to just set the stage for those of you that are out there following this. Imagine you're called at 2 in the morning to go to a building with multiple thousands of square footage that needs to be checked for someone that could be hiding in just about anything. Could you just talk about how the canine is able to assist in recognizing whether or not someone is actually hidden in that building or not?
So as we spoke about the ability to find 0.225 millionths of an odor of marijuana or some sort of illegal substance, as well as explosives, one of the other things that our canines are also trained to do is to focus on the freshest human scent that's left. So if a suspect goes into a residence, they're leaving a trail of odor that you and I just won't pick up unless it's a perfume or a cologne.
We made be leaving an odor today. It's about 95 degrees out here, and it is cooking. But
that is absolutely true.
I digress. Back to you.
And one of the neat things about it is what will happen is when that suspect gets into your residence, and he might try to hide behind a cabinet or a couch, when we send in Canine Sam or Arco or any other canine to search, unlike us that we're going to actually have to visually go over there and look, he's going to be able to use his nose to tell us exact path of this person that might be hiding, the way he went in there, and where he's at, because he's going to go to that fresh odor. Canine Sam here in Aberdeen have over 35 or 36 right now actual apprehensions where we were able to go into a vacant house or a house that was burglarized and find the suspect inside with no actual bite the person gave up prior, and find them within seconds, keeping other officers safe and use of force at a bare minimum.
And that's really, and again, for those of you that are outside of law enforcement, it's hard to quantify that in terms of what you were saying about suspects keeping safe. Now, keep in mind, when officers are going into these situations where someone has broken through the threshold of a business or a house, there's definitely an elevated risk, not only for the officer but for the suspects. So what you're telling me is the utilization of our dogs is actually helping in saving lives and preventing injuries. And I think that's something to really draw out here and to explain to our public that this dog, in no way or form are we looking to have people get hurt. And most, especially our police officers and citizens, but not only that, the people that we encounter that are the bad guys, and that we do care and that we do render aid. And this is another measure that we're using to ensure that lives are being preserved and protected. We're wrapping up here now. We're getting a lot of feedback. I don't have a lot of questions, but a lot of people that love dogs, a lot of you love what you do. If somebody, could you just kind of again explain how a normal day goes, and then we'll just kind of out here.
Sure. So normal responsibility for the Canine Unit and Aberdeen is to come out and control with all patrol functions. So our responsibility is to assist with traffic control as well as narcotic investigations. Canine Arco's responsibility is he actually goes over to Amtrak, Bristol, and through other what we call hotspots, which is areas of focus that we want him to be in. And he does what we call proactive canine sniffs, where he's going to go out and just check these areas to make sure there's no explosive detection, no odors, nothing that could pose a threat.
Another layer of
security that's going on with nobody even noticing. He'll go over early in the morning when it's a bit slow and take care of that. So then that way, as our Amtrak is coming in and our citizens are going to and from Washington or wherever else, that they know that they're safe, as well as our baseball games here at Ironburg Stadium, that we know that that's taken care of. Canine Sam works in the meantime. One of our responsibilities to control all active criminal investigations, as well as things that are going on in progress, and to help out with any type of drug investigation that could be going on here in the city of Aberdeen.
Great. All right, well, that's going to conclude and wrap things up for tonight. And I just have a few parting things. Something that was concerning and that was brought up on our Facebook page. We had a Facebook user come on board and provided information that an individual approached them in non-uniformed, displaying some type of badge at the basketball courts at Hall's Crossroad Elementary School, located off of East Bel Air Avenue. That individual approached several that were enjoying the basketball court and provided credentials explaining that they were not to be on that basketball court and to leave. That no way, shape, or form was any member of the Aberdeen Police Department. And that if you see or witness anybody that comes up to you in civilian clothes and make statements that are consistent with this, individual is driving a tan vehicle and represented himself as possibly Lieutenant Brown. They in no way, shape, or form represent the Aberdeen Police Department or none of our allied agencies that we're aware of. So if you have any instances like this that were to take place, please make sure you call us so we can vet, verify, and make sure that everything's on the up and up. Again, I'd love to thank you for checking in and spending a little bit of time with us tonight in the great city of Aberdeen. Have a great evening. Good night.